Bird flu spreading across America, reducing the egg supply and causing their prices to skyrocket. While the Centers for Disease Control says it doesn't look like there's any risk to the public, 68 people have been confirmed sick, and one of those patients died. Let's bring in Dr. Masha Tehrani, a board-certified rheumatologist. So there's so many effects from the bird flu, particularly look at this on egg prices. Back at the beginning of December, eggs were $3.93 a gallon. Yesterday, a dozen. Now they're $8.11 a dozen. Concerns about dairy cows being infected and whether the milk supply is safe. And as we pointed out, 68 cases in 11 states among human beings with one death. What are you thinking about all this?
First of all, I want my egg prices back down again. The eggs are so healthy, it's in our diets, and now we have to have some limitations on buying them. So what I think is, there's no cause for an alarm to panic right now, but we have to be vigilant. With bird flu, there are a few red flags that we have to take into consideration. One is just the geographic distribution all over the U.S., all over the world. We're seeing it in not just one or two states. And then it's the duration. It's been ongoing for a little bit too long now. We're also the jump from the birds to mammals is another concern. And then finally, this newer case, they had newer mutations. So when you look at all of this as a whole, it does concern me for the potential for a pandemic. And so we have to be exert some caution. How do we do that? Obviously, hand washing is so important, right? We have to do that. I think that, I was thinking about petting zoos, which we take our kids there, maybe avoiding petting zoos for a few weeks or a few months. Obviously, farmers have to use protective clothing when they're in contact with these animals. And then avoiding raw milk. Yeah. I think that unpasteurized milk, unpasteurized cheeses, that's actually very dangerous. And the flu shot, I was going to mention this, it's not going to directly prevent bird flu, but let's say you get the flu and simultaneously you're co-infected with bird flu. Well, what happens is these viruses love to play with one another and they shuffle. And what happens is the bird flu virus will develop the mutations that it needs to spread from human to human. If that happens, that's potentially the start of a pandemic. We want to avoid that.
Well, we saw what happened 5 years ago when a virus took on a mutation that made it transmissible among humans. So because of so much respiratory illness, whether it's RSV, whether it's COVID, or whether it's just the flu, the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, which serves millions of patients, has reinstated mask mandates as of today. Kind of takes us back to the bad old days of COVID. But is that a prudent thing, do you think, to do?
John, I certainly don't want to see mask mandates back again. I don't think anyone wants to see them. But the reality is we are seeing the highest rates of flu cases in the past 15 years. And I think in the right setting, judiciously, it makes sense. They certainly can't cause any harm. In the health centers and emergency rooms and hospitals, we have a lot of vulnerable populations. We have pregnant patients, cancer patients, patients with heart and lung diseases. And these vulnerable patients, if they do get the infection, then they are at higher risk of developing further complications like pneumonia and ICU stays. So in select populations, I think it makes sense. In my practice, I haven't implemented it yet. I don't plan on doing it. I did wear a mask a few weeks ago when I was sick, but I'm leaving that as a voluntary decision for patients.
All right, well, hopefully we won't all be back to wearing masks again. But, in a setting where you have so many sick people and so many vulnerable people all in the same place at the same time, maybe it's a good idea. We'll see. Doc, great to see you.
Good seeing you.